When I kicked down my own gate with the fire chief screaming in my earpiece and 3,000 residents one pipe away from a water crisis, all I could think about was Lorna's smug little padlock and how she was about to be the star of the dumbest felony in HOA history. You might be asking, wait, how does that even happen legally? And how does she not notice? Yeah, I've been asking myself the same thing ever since. I've dealt with disasters, pipeline failures, infrastructure sabotage, even that time a teenager tried to mine Bitcoin using a toaster and blacked out half the district. But none of that prepared me for one middle-aged woman with a chain, a clipboard, and a god complex wearing pastel capris. Name's Eli. Civil engineer by training, county infrastructure manager by reluctant promotion, and an unfortunate resident of Maple Ridge, the quaintest little suburban prison this side of a Norman Rockwell painting. You've seen these places, identical beige homes, precision-trimmed grass, and mailboxes lined up like boot camp recruits. From the outside, it looks peaceful. Peel back one layer, though, and it's Stepford meets mall cops on a power trip. Reigning over all of it was Lorna Eastbrook, vice president of the HOA and self-declared guardian of residential harmony. She was the kind of woman who laminated her grocery list and believed speed bumps were acts of divine order. To be fair, I wasn't even on her radar at first. I kept my lawn tidy, paid my dues, and nodded politely during her 6 a.m. patrol walks. The mistake, the fatal, unforgivable error was building a side gate. I hand-built it. Rustic wood, reinforced, stained to match the house. Looked great. Worked even better. But I didn't file an official architectural change submission. That was all Lorna needed. First came the notes, neatly folded printouts of the HOA handbook. Terms like unauthorized modification and visual disruption, highlighted like scripture. I ignored the first few. Thought she'd move on to someone else's wind chimes or a flower pot in the wrong shade of blue. But no. Lorna was like a Roomba with a vendetta. If it didn't conform, she'd bump into it, back up, and hit it again. Then came the formal complaint. She claimed the gate obstructed community access and posed a safety risk. That was rich coming from someone who routinely parked her golf cart sideways across the sidewalk every Tuesday. Still, I tried to be patient. Emailed her, explained the gate was on my property, not part of the communal fencing, and most importantly, it covered an emergency infrastructure access point. A bypass valve. One of the only functioning emergency pressure reroutes for the entire township, buried, unfortunately, right beneath my backyard. Instead of listening, she hit back with the HOA lawyer speak. They'd review the easement and render a determination in accordance with policy. That's code for, we don't care what the law says, we like our clipboards. Then I came home one afternoon to find an actual metal chain, thick, shiny, padlock trapped around my gate. Not mine. Hers. Zip-tied to the post was a laminated sign reading, HOA access only. Unauthorized entry prohibited. You'd think she was guarding state secrets, not a patch of grass and a pipe. I knocked. She answered with a grin that showed teeth but no soul and told me without blinking that she was preserving neighborhood order and that further violations might result in suspended privileges. Ma'am, I said, what privileges? The algae-ridden pool or the ping-pong table with 3 missing paddles? I told Harrogate that the gate wasn't decoration. It was the only thing between 3,000 people and a water disaster. She laughed. If that were true, she said, someone important would have told the HOA. I'm the someone. She shut the door in my face. At that point, I could have cut the chain myself. But something inside me, probably the same part that once ate gas station sushi on a dare, wanted to see just how far she'd take it. So I documented everything. Photos, emails, the sign, her smug grin. And I waited. Then the storm hit. Not rain pressure failure. A water main upstream burst in a neighboring district. Pressure dropped across the grid. Protocol was to reroute through emergency valves. Guess where one of those valves was? Yep. My yard. Behind Lorna's iron curtain. The alert hit my phone at 6:42 a.m. I was still in pajamas, half a coffee in, staring at that chain like it was a bomb. Fire crews were en route. Water team mobilizing. I ran outside, buttoning my shirt as trucks pulled into my driveway. And there she was. Lorna. Already standing in front of the locked gate, screeching about trespassing while a man in a firefighter jacket calmly explained that 3,000 people were about to lose water access. It was like watching someone argue with gravity. I marched past her, grabbed my sledgehammer from the shed, and said what I'd wanted to say for months. "Lorna, I warned you." Then I kicked the gate. The chain snapped. The gate burst open. And there it was, the bypass valve, pristine and waiting. 5 minutes later, we had water rerouted and pressure stabilized. Catastrophe averted. Lorna, of course, was still screaming about property damage. But the day wasn't over. My radio crackled. "Eli, we've got a legal complication," said the fire chief. Lorna called the sheriff. "She's claiming we broke into her easement." Not mine. Not the county's. Hers. Turns out, she'd filed a land use modification with the HOA without notifying the county and got it rubber stamped. On paper, the chain had been authorized, which meant this wasn't over. Not even close. By the time the sheriff arrived, Lorna was pacing in her floral blouse, waving papers like a courtroom drama reject. The busted gate sat behind her like a crime scene prop. She accused me of unlawful destruction of HOA property, unauthorized access, and my personal favorite, aggressive behavior toward a community official. The sheriff looked like he deeply regretted waking up that morning. I kept calm, pointed to the now hissing valve, handed over maps showing the easement, county documentation, even the original approval signed 5 years ago, long before Lorna had joined the board. The sheriff blinked, glanced between us, and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna leave this to the county attorneys." Lorna's face turned the color of overripe eggplant. She stormed off, screeching about lawsuits and irreparable damage to HOA integrity. But the seed was planted. This wasn't just a neighborhood spat anymore. It was interference with emergency services. And county legal doesn't like that. Things moved fast. Within days, I was in meetings I didn't know existed. State infrastructure reps, county lawyers, public safety officials, all wanting to know how a local HOA managed to block first responders during a crisis. I laid it all out. The gate, the chain, the laminated sign, the emails, the ignored warnings. And Lorna? She went into full PR meltdown. All caps emails on the neighborhood app titled "Clarifying the Incident," paranoid screeds about contractor conspiracies, and my personal favorite, accusing me of fabricating a crisis to avoid accountability. "Ma'am, I didn't stage a Broadway play. I stopped 3,000 people from losing clean water." Things came to a head at a surprise HOA meeting. Agenda item: censure Eli Voss for violations of community standards. I didn't come alone. I brought the state fire marshal, the water commissioner, 2 reporters. Lorna had prepared a slideshow. She didn't make it past slide 2. The fire marshal stood, calmly explained that not only was the gate legal, but Lorna's chain had delayed emergency response. The water commissioner followed up. Her actions had breached county protocols. The HOA was liable. Silence. One board member, Rick, bless him, scooted his chair away like Lorna was contagious. Then a reporter asked, "Lorna, when you padlocked the gate, were you aware it blocked emergency infrastructure?" She blinked, opened her mouth, closed it, then muttered, "Well, no one told me." She stormed out. The board didn't vote to censure me. Instead, they froze all enforcement actions pending a county audit. Translation: "Lorna, sit down." And still it wasn't over. The county investigation dug deep. They uncovered everything: unauthorized fines, odd invoices, a landscaping contract with Lorna's cousin charging double market rates. Worse, the HOA's liability insurance didn't cover obstruction of emergency services, which meant damages over $100,000 could be pursued. Personally. And Lorna? She was the signing authority on every document. Neighbors who hadn't spoken to me in years started reaching out. Some asked me to join the HOA board. I declined. I wasn't here for power, just peace. But Lorna had awakened something bigger. When the county report dropped, it scorched the earth. Detailed accounts of delayed response, risk of contamination, and 3 protocol violations. They'd even found Lorna backdated documents to cover her tracks. The HOA board unraveled. 2 members resigned. One left a post-it note on the door that just said, "Nope." Then came the kicker. She showed up at the public hearing with a new lawyer and a thick folder. Claimed I baited her into locking the gate to humiliate her. The judge, a woman with a glare that could level mountains, asked, "How does one bait someone into padlocking emergency infrastructure?" When Lorna stammered about tone, the judge shut it down. "That's not tone. That's obstruction. The county attorney listed the consequences: civil, personal fines, potential criminal charges. The numbers were brutal. The HOA's insurance wouldn't cover her. She had no one left. Her own house, it turned out, had an illegal sunroom, built without a permit. She was fined $4,200. The new HOA board, in a moment of divine symmetry, told her, "We're just following policy." The cherry on top? A week later, I installed a polished bronze plaque on the gate. On this spot, a very dumb lock almost shut down a town. It became a local attraction. Visitors asked, "Is this that viral gate?" I'd smile. "Oh yeah, the legend lives on." Word eventually got back to me. Lorna moved. Quietly. Sold her house at a loss. Tried to change her name. But chaos follows you when you chain it to someone else's gate. Last I heard, she was living in a fixer-upper outside HOA jurisdiction. Her new neighbor, a retired firefighter, recognized her. She'd introduced herself as Lori. Said the whole thing was fake news. He didn't buy it. He just wrote me, "Keep your gate unlocked." I've got a feeling she's not done yet. And maybe she isn't. But that plaque? That gate? They're staying right where they are. Because sometimes poetic justice doesn't need a court. Just a chain, a clipboard, and the truth snapping back louder than any lock ever could.